Hello YouTube and welcome to W's DIY. In today's project, we'll put an eco-worthy 30 amp hour LiFePO4 battery in a 50 cal ammo box and modify it to work in extreme cold by adding heating pads with a digital thermostat and an insulated battery cover. To proceed with the teardown, you'll need a hammer and a nice thin pry bar. Starting at a corner, work your way around the seam. As you get to each corner, you'll hear the glue pop as it releases. With that done, you'll be able to flip the top open. Using a Phillips screwdriver, remove the positive and negative leads. With the leads removed, you'll be able to tape them up for protection, remove the fish paper, and have a look at the BMS. Using the sharp edge of the pry bar, carefully cut around the perimeter of the control board through the silicone sealant. There are also patches of two-way foam tape halfway down on the narrow sides of the box. Carefully work past them to release the battery from the case. Once you've worked the battery loose, carefully peel the fish paper away from the battery. The fish paper has an adhesive backing, so try not to tear it as we'll reuse it later. An integral part of this project is this 12-volt temperature control module. It comes complete with a waterproof temperature sensor which plugs into the module there. You can get it on Amazon, part number W1209. Using a bendable straw to hold the sensor, I'll apply some hot glue to the sensor and put it in place under the first row between two battery cells closest to the center of the pack. Once positioned, I'll use needle nose pliers to hold it in place while the glue cools. The other integral component are these motorcycle hand grip warmers, also available on Amazon, part number A1060. They come with a roll of electrical tape, 2 pieces of large heat shrink tubing, installation instructions, the heat pads themselves, and an attached bundle of wiring and switch. Using the included electrical tape, position each heat pad in the center of the pack, aligning the bottom edges. One side of the heating pad may have exposed metal contacts. Be sure the exposed contacts face away from the battery and try to position the contacts over a space between the nickel strips. With the heating pads in place, cut some appropriately sized pieces of cardboard and stick them to the adhesive backing on the fish paper so that they apply some pressure to the heating pads when the fish paper is put back in place. Fold the fish paper back up and tape it in place with Kapton or duct tape. Moving on, we'll fashion the insulated battery case. I've pre-cut 2 pieces of Reflectix and I'm using the original battery box to form this around. I'll use aluminum foil tape to hold it together. With the Reflectix liner done, we'll move on to covering the liner with landscape cloth. There's ample room inside for the battery pack because we're using the case as a template. It's important to note that this is in no way fireproof, flame-proof, or explosion-proof. Its sole purpose is insulating the battery pack that will be placed inside a 50 cal ammo box. I've set up my gluing station here in the garage. We'll be using 3M Super 77 spray adhesive to glue 6 pieces of pre-cut landscape cloth covering the Reflectix liner. Using Super 77 requires that you spray both surfaces liberally. Then give it a minute to tack up and position your elements as accurately as you can before sticking the surfaces together. It's not overly forgiving, so try not to reposition your material too much or you might have to start over. Apply even pressure and be sure to let the adhesive cure for a few hours. Positioning glued fabric accurately is easier if you use a piece of cardstock or cardboard to wrap the glued cloth around. Here you can see I've used cardboard pieces to protect the areas inside the liner from overspray. Once you've worked the fabric into position and pressed the surfaces together, everything starts to take shape. With the inside of the liner covered, I'll trim a few edges, then start covering the outside. First, the bottom. Using chalk lines and pre-cut tabs makes positioning the fabric quickly and accurately a simple matter. Next, we'll cover the top and spine. Again, chalk lines and pre-cut tabs make great looking folded edges a snap. There's the project, and it's looking good so far. Just one more piece to apply around the outside and it's done. Here I'm gluing the outside of the liner walls, and there's the outer fabric layer. Still got some massaging to do, but it's pretty much ready for a battery pack. Next, we'll solder up the positive leads to the power switch terminals. I'm using a 5 amp fuse holder I already had from another project. The amp draw on the heater pads is under 1.5 amps, so the switch that came with them is more than adequate. I've pre-tinned the wire ends and switch terminals, and I've pre-cut all the heat shrinkable tubing as well. I use the side of the soldering iron tip to heat up small diameter heat shrink tubing. Next, I solder up the positive power lead and jumper wire that'll plug into the 12 volt positive slot on the control module. I've already cut the switch hole in my power box, so I'll run the wires through it and install the switch. Then install the fuse and close up the fuse holder. I soldered up the negative leads that will plug into the control module ground slot. This blue wire is the negative to the heating pads. This 22 gauge black wire is for the indicator light that will tell us when the heating pads are on, and this 16 gauge wire is the main ground lead. Looking at the control module, you'll see that the slots are well marked. The main power lead will connect to the plus 12 volt slot. This jumper wire will connect to the K1 relay slot to power our accessory. This lead powers the heating pads. We put it in slot K0, controlled through the relay. It sends power to both the heat pads and the LED indicator light to show us that the heat pads are on. I'm reusing the original sleeve on these two leads to keep them together. I'm pre-tinning this negative lead so it's ready for our LED light. I'll harvest the LED bulb from this lighted 12 volt switch. Pop out the switch rocker with a small flat screwdriver. With the light assembly removed, carefully bend the electrodes to extract the bulb, as we need the diode as well. And there it is. The positive lead solders to the electrode with the diode. We'll insulate the electrodes by covering them with heat shrink tubing. And there's our indicator light. We've got everything wired up, set up. Let's power it up. As you can see, the current temperature is 18.6 degrees. I'll go through the settings real quick. So to access your settings menus, you press and hold the set button. And then to make adjustments, you've got your plus and minus buttons. Press the set button one time. That shows you your target temperature. In this case, it's 10 degrees. Once it stops flashing, the temperature is set. P0 mode is in heat. P1 mode is 15 degrees. P2 mode is 25 degrees. P3 mode is minus 20 degrees. P4 mode is 0. P5 is 0, P6 is off. Alright, so the battery's been outside cooling off in minus 20 Celsius temperatures. It should be ready to turn on as soon as I hit the switch. So let's watch it warm up. It's set for minus 5. And you can see it's minus 5.6. Our LED light tells us that the heat pads are on. Should start warming up in the next minute or two and continue on until it hits 10 degrees Celsius. Next, Next, we'll remove the lens for the indicator light from the rocker in the donor switch. Press it out of the rocker using a drill bit. Drill the same diameter hole through the lid in the battery box. Then place the lens in the hole and press it in place. And mount the indicator light to the underside of the ammo box lid beneath the lens using hot glue. Note that I replaced the original power switch with a lighted 12-volt switch to make it easy to see that the pads and thermostat are powered on. The outdoor temperature here is minus 19 Celsius, so I'll just park the battery box outside, turn it on and wait a few hours for it to cool down. A few hours later, we see the heating pads are doing their job. 1 hour later, we see the heating pads have shut off. And there you have it, a heated, insulated LiFePO4 battery box that works even in extreme cold. Thanks for watching.